Cool, man. Well, hey, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. So, where I want to start is with the pandemic. It was such a shapeshifter for all of us. Talk to me a little bit about living through that time and how it influenced this focus on meditation and kind of, what did it do? How many ripples did it send through what you do right now?
No, that's a good question. The pandemic was a tough time for everybody. A lot of people just didn't, there was a lot of uncertainty going on. And especially for me being an athlete, I always thought I was going to play lacrosse in college. And the pandemic kind of put a big stomp in that and kind of shifted my focus towards football. And there was just a lot of uncertainty, even being able to come to college at the right time and like with training camp and everything like that. So that tested my mental barriers pretty quickly on as an athlete. And meditation and becoming mindful really allowed me to get out of some really tough times, well, especially with athletics and with all this uncertainty going on, especially with a lot of stuff going on at home as well. And the pandemic, I'm glad that it's gotten, we're out of that because I know that meant definitely hurt a lot of people. But to answer your question briefly, that allowed me to become tap into my mindfulness, take a step back, have gratitude for all of my many blessings, which allowed, Hampton and I to end up creating a meditation app, to help everyone out. The idea kind of came a little bit later, January of 2023. But, the pandemic was definitely a big stepping stone in our meditation journey.
And I think in athletics, I've been a sports fan my whole life, and it
Yeah.
always used to be with athletes that they never talked about mental health or any of that. They were just guys that were geared to win, and if they didn't, they would make a comment and move on. But it seems like there's more of a focus now. So it almost seems like what you're doing is aligning with this modern world. So what's the reception like? What have people been, how have you been received for this?
Are you talking about like with the Ascend Meditations app or like my story?
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and promoting it, and in general, I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about something that's not something that's typically been common in sports.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's a great question. You know, as a student athlete at Wake Forest, we have a free premium subscription to the app Calm. So a lot of us use that app, and we got base meditations, base sleep stories. But as an athlete, a big thing is visualizing your success, right? Being able to see yourself making a play in your mind and translating that onto the field, whether that's practice, a big time game, and as well as like reduction of stress. Your nerves are through the roof before a game, especially you know through like a big game, like an ACC game. Like it's like a big deal, and there's a lot of people watching you. And being able to create a meditation tailored for you on the spot to calm you down is essential to help you prepare your peak performance. And the other side of the app through the visualization aspect. So going into that a little bit, like I said, apps like Calm, Headspace had brief meditations, based sleep stories that helped us out, right? But nothing felt individual to the user. So using artificial intelligence, me and my partner Hampton realized that we could use AI to create your own personalized meditations, sleep stories, and what we call meditation plans for whatever you're going through. So, for instance, as an athlete, right? Well, we just talked about that. Your tensions, your everything's through the roof right before you're about to play. I could put into the app. I'm about to play Clemson in football. I'm super nervous. Could you give me a brief meditation to help me calm my nerves and perform at my best? You'd select a length and a time, and it would create that meditation for you on the spot to calm your nerves. And then if you want to create a meditation the day before, leading up to the game, you can create a meditation plan to visualize your success. You can be like, if you would want to do a short plan, you could be, I want to score two touchdowns against Clemson, have 30 yards receiving, and I'm going to do this, this, and this to achieve this goal. And then the app will actually break up a meditation plan for you to visualize your success because, as you know, everything starts in your mind.
Yeah.
So that those visualization practices, as well as being able to meditate and become more mindful and present, and just like have that depression is the past, anxiety is the future, and just to live in that present moment, that's been huge. And we've given a lot of success through reviews and through our teammates that are really loving the app as well, and helping them with their performance. So yeah,
Right on. So let's get a handle on exactly what you do right now here in
yeah,
2024. I'm going to put
yep,
you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. All
sweet,
right. One of the kids is curious and is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?"
yeah.
How do you answer him?
I would say, I'm a guy that's just trying to make the world a better place, one day at a time. And I would tell them that I'm creating a app called Ascend Meditations that allows people to unlock a mindful edge and unlock their full potential one breath at a time.
So let me ask you this. When you were in that position as a third
Yeah.
grader, what did you want to be when you grew up? Was it always sports? Ah,
Yeah. I mean, early on, I wanted to be like an NBA basketball player, and then that kind of faded pretty quick. But Yeah, and then I went through a phase where I wanted to be a dentist. I always didn't have any cavities or anything. I was like, that sounds pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Biology, I liked my bio classes, but it didn't work out in the medicine field, and kind of excelled. I did a lot of different things. I did a real estate internship, like a commercial real estate internship out in the Silicon Valley. This past summer, I worked in New York for a company called Alpha Sites, did internship there, which is like a knowledge on demand firm. I worked in the Outer Banks for a guest realty company. So I kind of been all over. My mom's a realtor, herself, and my dad's in medical sales. So I was kind of always over the place. But, you know, after sophomore year, I kind of always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and like kind of create something. And at the end of the day, leave a long lasting impact on the world, and leave it better than I found it. Right. And I feel like being able to create something to help make someone else's life a little bit better is kind of like my purpose as a servant leader, and that's what I'm feeling called to do. So that's kind of the route I'm taking there. Um, so yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. It certainly does. So take me back to where you were born and raised. What were these foundational elements of sport and entrepreneurship? How did
Yeah,
those get planted and harvested into who you are?
no, for sure. So, like I said, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, lived in the same house from, kindergarten all the way till now, literally never moved. And I grew up with two beautiful sisters, a mom and dad, and a loving household, English setter. My foundation was always set on Christ. I went to church every Sunday. He's the way, the truth, and the life. He's got me through some of the hardest times in my life, having that foundation. But as seeing my mom, especially as she's our residential realtor, and just watching her kind of do her thing, and just she's always networking, and for me, like we're doing right now, life's all about relationships, right?
Yeah.
And just watching her like make all these relationships with people, and sell these houses, and just the way like her mannerism, the way like she's just like hungry and like makes relationships, that kind of opened my eyes pretty early on to how essential communication is. And that's kind of what became one of my core values, is how can I effectively communicate with people to get a job done, right? To excel. And then my dad's always been self-employed. He has a branch for medical sales where he does that, selling like surgical implants and knee braces and all that good stuff. And right now he's making a transition too, which is pretty cool, to like historical windows, like restoration. So that's
Oh,
kind of always been
cool.
passion. Yeah. So he's kind of going the entrepreneur route as well. But having that foundation and those blocks as a kid, and just watching your parents both being self-employed, and kind of what the challenges that faces, but also the opportunity that can get you to where you want to be. Definitely left some values early on. And the two that I'd say, judging from them and also sports, would be discipline, just doing the right thing, being the same person, and just staying true to who you are. What are your principles? What are your values in life? And the second one for me that I think is the most important, it's carried me, everywhere I've been, is consistency. Waking up every single day at 5:30, lift, read my book, be the same person every day. And when you stack days, you start seeing results. So if I would leave anything with anybody, I'd say find things that find what your values are and live for them, and if you have discipline and consistency, I truly believe there's anything you can do anything in this life. So yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I come from Gen X, and
Yeah, yeah.
there was always that notion that people would try to find the ideal job that would
Mhm.
work for them, but it was
Yeah,
always about working for somebody. It
yeah.
seems like in the youth, the younger mindset, entrepreneurship is the way to go. Are you feeling like that's kind of the way it more? Because I didn't grow up with a lot of people that are like, I'm going to make my own business. This is what
Yeah,
I'm going to do.
yeah.
It seems like as technology has kind of opened up, there's been kind of this Pandora's box, and there's been a greater notion of I want to be my own boss. I want to do my own thing.
No, that's an unbelievable question. It really is. I think you got to take a step back at first, and you have to try, do some internships, get some jobs first, and kind of work for somebody else and see if that's what you're interested in, right? I have a lot of friends that, are going back to New York and doing investment banking at JP Morgan, what I mean? Like, and they love it, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's, McKinsey or Bain doing consulting. So I think it's all about, putting yourself through experiences, trying to see what aligns with you. But then for me personally, I worked for like companies before. And I liked working for somebody else because I was able to learn and acquire skills. And I'm not saying I will never do that again, because it's always great to learn from others who, have made it and are more successful than you. Because, life's all about learning. Just be curious, not judgmental. But for me personally, I'm like always trying to achieve more. I always want to learn something new. I want to leave a long lasting impact. And entrepreneurship, building something, creating something to help the lives of others, is something I can do more on my own. And that through, like you said, through technology, through all these resources we have now that you guys might necessarily not have had in these days, especially with ChatGPT and all of these, you know, accelerators for progress that can make your work go so much quicker. I mean, it obviously gives us a big advantage, but it's about seizing the day, like seizing that opportunity. And like I said, learn those skills from people while you can when you're young. And then, just keep a gratitude journal, keep like, write down everything that you're learning and apply those skills that you've learned from people that have already made it, that are more successful than you, translate to that to what you're doing. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, I think it's very important to take a step back, try out a job, see if working for somebody is what you want to do. But if you want something more, you want to create something, go for it. It's limitless.
It's interesting. The whole landscape of athletes these days is that entrepreneurship is totally a part of what they do. They're
Yeah.
almost as good on the field as they are off. Like I was driving by a Whataburger here in Kansas City, and
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes' jersey is up in there, and he
Yeah.
owns a lot of them. But he's diversified and he owns a lot. LeBron's doing that. There's so many athletes that have diversified. Who do you look up to? Who is that entrepreneur athlete that you look up to that's doing it the right way?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think one that comes to my mind right away, so we're talking about like an athlete
Yeah.
specifically, would be I don't know if you mentioned, I don't know if you know who this is, but I actually have built a relationship with him. His name's Prince Daniels Jr.
Okay.
And he played running back for Georgia Tech. He still holds the all-time rushing like yards in a year at Georgia Tech. Played for the
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens for 3 years, but he basically was a walk-on guy like myself at Wake. Worked his butt off for 7 years, or started out seventh on the depth chart, became a starter, ends up going to the pros, and then he has this like he was telling me this like this identity crisis. He didn't know like who he was, and he figured out who he was. But hearing his story and how he was able to take what he learned as like a pro athlete, but doing essentially what I'm doing, coaching. He's written 3 different books about the like becoming a mindful athlete and try to translate your brain into becoming like becoming different. So to look up to a guy that's made it at the highest point of athletics, Pro Bowl selection. That's about as good as it gets in the NFL, other than winning a Super Bowl. See somebody at that point to also be doing all these other businesses, writing books, coaching kids, like he creating his own app, like going on podcasts, like, but doing that in the same wellness health sector that I'm interested in
Yeah.
as an athlete as well. That's pretty rare to find.
Yeah.
Especially kind of like we talked about. So I definitely look up to him and what he's been able to do in his career.
So overall, when you look at the arc of your life and what you've done and what you've accomplished up to this point, who has been that hero, that bedrock for you that's inspired you to get to this point?
I mean, it's Jesus for sure.
Yeah.
He's the way, the truth, and life for me. But on earth, like a physical person, it would be my dad.
Yeah.
That's somebody that I look up to every day, and he's somebody I want to be like. He taught me, hard work. Once a job has begun, do not stop until it's done. And he's just taught me, how to become a man and how to grow each day and put your best foot forward. And a lot of things in my life, a lot of my success, pretty much all of it, I have to attribute to him because without him raising me the right way and teaching me what it means to get to where you want to be, I mean, I wouldn't be here. So, that's somebody that I really look up to every day and I want to be like. So it would be my dad.
So I'm curious in your athletics career, I was thinking about this during the World Series. There's
Yeah.
very few humans that will live on this earth that will feel that level of energy. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? When those guys run out there and the play, like when Freddie Freeman hit that grand slam, there's very few humans in the history of humanity that will ever feel that adrenaline rush. What's been
100%.
that moment for you in sport where you like felt that whole rush and it was like, wow, I can't believe this is my life?
That's a really good question. Obviously, I'm not at the level of Freddie Freeman hitting a
Yeah.
grand slam of the World Series. I can't imagine what that feels like. Um, but I would probably say getting an interception in the spring game last year, and just I feel like that those moments in sports, making like a big time play, that you're like instantly in the present moment, and there's no better feeling. It's something that you can't really like describe. I don't
Yeah.
really know how to answer the question. You just
You did.
feel like a serenity, like a peace, like you feel like you're on top of the world, but it doesn't last. It doesn't last too long, but it feels when you get to that point, it's good.
Well, I always think about that with Mahomes. I grew up going to training camp for the
Yeah.
Chiefs
Oh
back in
yeah.
the dark ages, man. Like I was, this would have been
Alex
early to
Smith.
mid 80s.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is way before. Okay.
Way,
Yeah.
yeah, way, way. So we would have draft picks. Like I remember we got Todd Blackledge from Penn State, and he was supposed to be
Okay.
the savior. And it
Yeah.
just, but anyways, I used to get football cards from the cops, and we'd go and get autographs. I'd play basketball with them, and just got to kind of know them as human beings.
Yeah.
But seeing what's going on right now, it's like every time I see Mahomes, he's just in this zone. It's like
Yeah.
he's not even cognizant of it. But like right now, we're all pondering if they win the third championship they'll be the greatest team. but it's like it's water off his wings. It's not even like something that you see that's stressful to him. He just loves the game. So let me ask you this: if you could go back in time and see one game, one moment in sports with your own eyes, where would you go?
NC State 2021.
Okay.
That was a pretty big game for the Deacs. That was our season. We went 11-3, and it was we played NC State at home, and it was we win this game. You go to the ACC championship and you win the Atlantic. You lose, you're just going to a bowl game, and I'll never forget that feeling. After that game, after we won that game, the whole entire student section. It's a night game, 8:30. Everyone rushes the field. All the students, fans, players. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't know how much you know about Wake Forest, but that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of field rushing that goes on. The only other time would have been Clemson in 22 when we lost in
Yeah.
overtime, but that was a surreal feeling just to realize that the team really put it all together. And I wasn't even a big contributor. I was a freshman, but just seeing like that energy and just seeing how happy everyone was and how like when the team put together that goal, that vision that we had all season, we're able to reach that. There's no better feeling in sports because you didn't do it with yourself. You did it with all
Yeah.
your brothers. And that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. So that was a pretty good moment. I see that all the time in my head.
I remember that. I watched that documentary on Johnny Manziel, and did they
Yeah.
beat Alabama? Was that the game that
They did. They did beat Alabama. Yes,
they
sir.
stunned them? And that's what when you were talking about that, that's what I'm thinking about because there's no other pageantry as special as college sports because
100%.
everybody's thirsty. No one has a contract yet. It's just raw data, right?
Not these days, but yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That I'm showing my age. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but there is a level of it that's just different. There's a different
Oh, sure.
intensity, there's a different vibe.
No.
So what is it for you every day to get up and to do this work that you do, to parlay between athletics and being an entrepreneur and doing it at the top of your game? What's that collective energy every day for you?
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to just knowing your purpose, knowing your why, like why you do what you do. And, I would encourage everyone to really write a mission statement, figure out what your values are. And once you know your why, once you know your purpose, everything else will kind of take care of itself. And, I'm a firm believer in taking care of yourself and the rest of everything else will kind of happen. So I take like to take care of myself physically, most importantly, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and then mentally. If you take care of all four of those components, when you know like your purpose and your why, I mean, everything else kind of takes care of itself from my point of view. So I would say to all your listeners out there, why do you do what you do? Figure that out. And that will kind of take you wherever you want to be, or where you want to get to. And I know it's kind of rare to find that early on in life, but the earlier you can find that, and obviously it's a constantly changing thing, but if you can find that and you have something that you're going to give your life to and you're willing to die for, you're going to wake up every day and you're going to get after it. So,
Absolutely. So of all of these things that you've done up to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
that's a good question. You know, I actually got asked that question last week, and it's nothing external. It's not playing football at Wake Forest. It's not, starting a business. We have an app on the App Store. Like it's none of that. The thing that I'm the most proud of in my life is the way that people perceive me and talk about how I'm helping them change their lives. And my buddy and brother, Michael Kern, he played football. He played quarterback at Wake Forest. He's the most like God-fearing man I know. He's taught me so much spiritually and allowed me to grow in my faith. And I overheard him talking with some of our other teammates as well as our chaplain. And he was just talking about how I've grown so much in my faith. I've been a light. I've been spreading like the gospel and bringing more people closer to the kingdom. And hearing that from a guy like him, who's somebody that I look up to every day,
Yeah.
I'd almost put me in tears to be honest with you. So that's what I'm most proud of because that goes far beyond anything external. And it's something that really it's like why I was created to live. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that really hit different. So that definitely hearing that from a guy like that is what I'm most proud of, and just making others happy and serving them.
Yeah. So let's say we have a conversation in 10 years from now. Where do you want
Yeah.
to be? Where do you envision your life?
10 years from now, I want to be somebody that's helped 4.8 billion people achieve a mindful edge and live a happier, healthier life. I don't know exactly where I'll be location wise, but I would like to have a family, some kids, and like I said, just continuing to make this world a better place and whatever mark I can make it. So, looking back, I do see Ascend taking off even more. We're going through a soft launch right now and we're going to do our seed round of fundraising pretty soon and really get the app out there. adding some premium voices and get this out to as many people as we possibly can. But I only continue to see it growing. I think there's
Yeah.
limitless potential in a lot of different avenues with corporations, with schools and universities, with the individuals, with sports teams. So, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's limitless.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that you work with, colleagues, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a very, very good question that I've never been asked before.
That's the
Wow.
therapy question.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible question. Um, yeah, honestly, can you repeat it? That was pretty deep.
Yeah, so basically everyone has this perception of you. You play
Yep.
different, in different circles, they see you in a different light, but ultimately you're the driving force with everybody you know. What is your perception personally of who you think you are?
From the person that I think I am, I would say that I'm somebody that wants to humble myself as much as I can every day and just shed light. I want to be there. I want to be somebody that's some people that always can call, answer a phone call, and help them with whatever they're going through in life. Because I truly believe that the best type of leadership is serving leadership and serving others. So when I look at myself in the mirror, and I hope that everyone sees me the same way, it's somebody that will do whatever puts himself below everyone else, will do anything he can to serve others. So, that's how I perceive myself. I hope that everyone else perceives me that way, but serving leadership is the best kind of leadership. And I hope that, people that I love, people that look up to me, see me in that light. And like I said, if there's anything I can do for anybody anytime, I'm always open to have a chat, listen to hear their story and, try to make their life a little bit better.
So if you could interview any athlete on the planet right now that's doing kind of this hybrid of being an athlete and being an entrepreneur and ask some questions, someone that would help you on your journey, who would you like to sit down with?
That's another really good question. Honestly, I'd probably say like Drew Brees probably.
Yeah,
I've always really looked up to Drew Brees. He has a
yeah,
grit factor and he's a really good guy and he's getting into the restaurant business and he's kind of growing a lot. But I think I'd definitely like to pick his brain, just kind of hear his story, coming through. Also, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins
yeah,
has a really good story.
yeah,
Just because he was the backup behind RG3, and I'd love to pick his mind about mental resilience and emotional intelligence and whatever kind of excelled him to get that way. And he's a Christian guy himself too, so I would definitely like to talk to them. But definitely one of those quarterbacks, Kirk or Drew Brees.
It's interesting. I'm watching Tom Brady do all this commentating on Fox, and he's getting people are saying it's not his thing, but Drew is like a natural. Like he
Yeah,
just gets up there and it's like he's been doing it his whole life. It's wild when those guys can make that transfer from the field to the broadcast booth. It's pretty cool. So if anyone out there wants to learn more about the app, get involved, learn more about you, what you're doing, any of the good business, where can they go?
yeah. I could drop the link to our website. They could check it out. If you want to email me personally, my email is walkerferguson@ascendmeditations.app. Our Instagram's ascendapp.ai. Same with our LinkedIn and Facebook. Yeah, and if you'd like to contact me as well, you can contact my number. It's 804-201-5075. But yeah, follow us on socials, check out the website. We can drop the link in this below. And obviously, if you want to search us up on the App Store and give it a download, give it a try, just go to the App Store and search up Ascend Meditations. You can download it from there, try it out.
Right on, Walker. This has been great, man. I'm always so inspired by the younger generations that are just going out there and going for it. Just
Yeah.
100%, no holds barred, getting after it. So, man, thank you. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate you, Mr. Dimino, and you have an incredible show, and I've been following. I appreciate what you do. Bringing
Thank
a
you.
little bit of light.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
sir.
my pleasure, man. I appreciate it. Hey,
Awesome.
have a good holiday.